So, hello from Mumbai. You're seeing my home office because we're still in lockdown. So, I'd like to share my thoughts on what it is like to grow up as a girl in India and how this feeds into sort of the representation of women in STEM fields. Science is about exploring the unknown. We have to have the confidence to think independently, to trust our instincts, to use one's training, to take a calculated leap. And yet there are elements of Indian tradition that work against encouraging these very qualities in young girls. Only in young girls, not in young boys, unfortunately. And this results in young girls compromising their dreams and aspirations very, very early. Okay, the broad message is that whatever you do in life, this can never come at the cost of your family. Now, young boys never get this message. I mean, the future is equally uncertain for everybody, but we grow up with this message, and this has consequences. So today I'm going to share my personal story, interwoven with observations and insights. I'll talk for about 15 minutes, and then there will be a lot of time for discussion after that. Okay, so I grew up in Mumbai in India, and I lived here until I got my bachelor's degree. And then I went to Caltech in the US at the age of 21 to get my PhD. My postdoc was at the University of Chicago. And after 10 years in the United States, I returned to India at the age of 31 to set up my lab at the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research in Mumbai, where I currently am. I met my husband in graduate school in Caltech, where he was a graduate student in physics. And we moved to Chicago together and then came to Mumbai together. We have 2 boys. I had them when I was 35 and 38 years old, during the early years of my lab starting up. And I've actually blogged about this a little bit. I can paste that in the chat box if people are interested. Let me just put that there. Okay, so I will begin my story by recounting 4 vignettes from my late teens that reveals the sort of mindset which I suspect is not unique to India. What is unusual is that although I grew up in this culture, these experiences were alien to me. And these experiences puzzled me because I didn't grow up like this. And I'd like to sort of tie it together and tell you why. So the first little vignette, small things, okay? This is just part of life. At our school's farewell party, the graduating class of standard 10 students, okay, we leave school after the 10th and then go to junior college. I was chatting with a friend. This friend and I, he and I were in the student government together in the school, leadership positions. We were also in friendly competition for topping the maths class. And after years of this, time came to say bye, and he was appreciative and he said, Shubha, I have something to tell you. Shubha, you're so intelligent and so capable, he said. You should find a boy who has high ambitions to start a good business and then join him and support his career. I was only 15 years old then, but I remember being very puzzled, thinking, why shouldn't I have my own high ambitions? Then, a couple of years later, when I was in junior college, St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, I was interviewed for the Best Student Award for junior college. And on the panel was a senior woman vice president, vice principal of the college, who asked me about my plans to go to medical school. At the time, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. She asked, did I anticipate any problems with being a woman in a difficult profession? And I replied matter-of-factly saying that I didn't anticipate any problems that I wouldn't be able to handle. And I was puzzled with the question. I was as puzzled with the question as she was puzzled with my answer. Because, because in India, girls are programmed to imbue their dreams with constraints from the very beginning. We're supposed to think of a future where our dreams will be constrained and we'll have to take into account many factors. Boys will also have to take into account many factors, but they don't let those factors constrain their dreams. And this is the kernel of what I want to communicate today. Two other conversations reveal this, and these were with my best friend in college. At the time, she was sort of contemplating medical school, and she abandoned it for the very clear reason that she said, you know, Shubha, it takes a really long time to finish medical school. And then after that, when would she have kids and how would she bring them up? This was a real concern to her. And then the same friend, some years later, okay, she was intelligent, charismatic, creative, had wonderful leadership skills. Some years later, she began considering appearing for the Indian Civil Service exam. This exam has the possibility that the very elite who clear this exam could join the Indian Foreign Service and become India's ambassadors to foreign nations. She had the talents and skill to do it, certainly, and even the interest. But she abandoned that too, because she talked to a few people and she said, you know, many people have told her that women in the IFS find it very difficult to get married because the job transfers you from one country to the next. And this was a real concern to her. So my best friend, talented and amazing in so many things, was programmed with the goal of finding her husband and choosing a career that is not described as being too demanding to raise a family. Now, there isn't anything wrong with making compromises in life when you come to them, but to not even dream and to constrain what you think you might want to do with all of these, you know, anticipated issues before you even try. These are reflective of what every Indian girl experiences. In fact, maybe some of this even resonates with people in other countries. I'm going to talk about the insidious nature of this programming and how I magically seem to have escaped it. By the time a girl is 12 years old, she receives 2 divergent messages. You should do well in your career, of course, but you have to ensure your family's well-being and harmony. Traditional and cultural issues come into this as well. In India, we have a common practice of the so-called arranged marriage, which there's nothing wrong with. Many of my extended family members have simply met their spouses through a system where mutual introductions are made. Matrimonial columns are filled with descriptions of the kinds of people, you know, people are looking for. And these reveal a very strong element of how the woman has to be, by definition, less than the man in every possible way. Okay, she has to be 2 inches shorter, can't be 2 inches taller. Okay, she has to be perhaps a degree less qualified. An MSc qualified girl is all right for a PhD boy, but never the reverse. She has to be younger. Okay, all of this set up so that eventually, you know, when time comes for the couple to lead their life together, she is naturally at a junior position, at a less paid position, at perhaps a less stable position. And she's going to be the one to make the compromise if they have to decide which city to live in or who will take which job or who will give up a job to take care of the family. She's set up to always be lesser. She is set up to always literally and figuratively look up to her husband. All of this is basically ensures that there is minimal conflict in the family. When there is a conflict, she'll be the one to give in because she is set up that way. This is how our society starts off young women in this very important relationship, not as equal partners in a shared journey, but as a lesser individual who will always compromise in the interests of family harmony, because that's what women are supposed to do. No wonder our girls don't dream. Okay, all of this social programming is creates a situation where from the age of 10, a girl knows that whatever she plans in life, there's going to be compromise. And I've had friends who've told me that let me not dream things that I may never be able to bring about. Let me create the absence of a dream so that I can fit into it whatever dream I am given or I am allowed to have. This is heartbreaking. This is heartbreaking to fit into it whatever dream I will be allowed to have. Deep in a 15-year-old girl's mind is this idea that her life choices are always going to be influenced by other factors, by in-laws, by husbands. Her ambitions are interwoven with concerns about whether she'd be free to pursue what she wants, whether these would be affected by her husband's job, and the lose-lose challenge of whether she'll be a working mother or a good mother. It's always defined as an either or, you can't be both. And then there is this huge social perception that somehow a woman who chooses to remain single is inadequate. Okay, not being married is an indication of inadequacy only for women. Okay, because you couldn't find a husband. A single man, nobody considers them inadequate. And, you know, this is God only help those people who happen to be in the LGBTQ space. I cannot even begin to talk about how our culture utterly ignores, suppresses anything that's outside this so-called norm. So to summarize this portion, it appears that Indian society doesn't really want independent-minded women, okay? We raise our girls to know they have to compromise, to know they'll always be the lesser. And then these traits, okay, independence, the ability to make decisions, the ability to take risks, these are exactly what we need in STEM careers, okay? So we have this, you know, completely opposite situation, and then we struggle with why there are few women in STEM fields. And then we create funding schemes, and then we create career re-entry programs, and we have women-centric mentorship sessions. All of these are absolutely critical, okay? They are absolutely critical and necessary. But we've created the problem in the first place, okay? We need to change the programming of our 10 to 12-year-olds if we really want to get to the root of the problem. So now, my last segment, okay? How did I escape this? I'm going to talk about my amazing parents, my mother who raised me to be free, and my father who believed I could do anything I wished to. My father gave me nothing but unstinted support and appreciation for every small thing I did. I'm going to talk about my mother at some length. My mom was the 7th of 8 siblings. She lost her parents when she was a teenager, and she grew up in hard times. In fact, she and her youngest sister basically decided they would help partner each other. One would work and support the other while the other studied, and then they would switch off. So that's how they both got themselves educated and supported. My mother trained as an occupational therapist, and she worked at a cancer hospital in Mumbai. And from this job, she took a 7-year break to raise me and my brother, because that's just how it was at the time. My mom is no more. My father is 84 years old and continues to support and relish everything that I come to him with. Anything I'm excited about, he's twice as excited about. My mom filled our childhood with amazing things. She choreographed dances for us. She wrote entire dramas. She made props. So we learned carpentry. My brother and me learned carpentry. We have made donkeys and trees and clouds and waves, all as part of our summer activities to have dances and dramas and so on at our campus or our school functions. She taught both of us how to cook. She taught both of us how to sew. We can both use sewing machines. And in fact, when I started college, my brother gifted me a college bag that he himself had made on the sewing machine. But perhaps what demonstrates the baseline of equality in my childhood was my mom's approach to worship. I'm an atheist. I think I perhaps always was, but it was wonderful to grow up with stories of Hindu mythology. Our mythology is filled with many, many gods who have different personalities and characters and traits. Some are male, some are female, some are even mixed gender gods. They quarrel, they get into trouble, they get sent down to earth to experience life as humans. So it seemed to me that all of these stories were a way of teaching children right from wrong, and how to live and how to be and how to help people and so on. So a monthly ritual in our home was a puja, a Satyanarayan puja, in which we worshipped a particular form of the Lord. And in this puja, the Lord is invited to embody an idol, which one worships as the embodiment of the God. And this idol is set up in a beautiful setting that represents creation. There is a coconut set atop mango leaves, set atop a pot that's 3/4 filled with water to represent all of creation. The oceans in the pot, the flora and the fauna and life. And into this setting, God is invited to be a revered guest in the home. The guest is offered hospitality, right from the practical water to wash tired, aching feet, a special meal. Hymns are sung in praise of the Lord. So it's a wonderful family act of worship. Now, these rituals are traditionally performed by the head of the family. Either the head of the family, the man, or his son. And these rituals are instructed by a learned priest, who is, of course, by default male. Well, not in my family. My mom decided that she's learned. She can actually read she could read Sanskrit, in which all of the puja descriptions are written. So she instructed the puja as the priest. She played the role of the priest, and she translated it all into Marathi, which is my native language, so that we could understand. And as for performing it, she created 2 identical settings, 2 identical coconut mango leaf pot things, 2 idols, 2 of everything. My brother and I would help assemble it, and we would perform 2 pujas side by side each month. We would jostle only over who got to the oil lamp first to heat a teaspoon of water symbolically to offer the revered guest, God, warm water. In all the years that we performed these pujas, it never occurred to me that it wasn't my right to do so. That all across India, girls stood by, having provided support and help to assemble the puja, while their brothers or fathers or uncles actually got to have all the fun. This was such a simple yet powerful platform my mother set up, that her 2 children would have equal opportunities in everything. And then, to wrap it up, this explains why I went through life increasingly puzzled when someone asked me to find a boy and follow his ambitions, or whether someone was concerned whether I would face problems as a woman professional down the road, or when a friend compromised her fledgling dreams of going to medical school or becoming an Indian ambassador before they were even formed. My childhood, I realize, was special because I had equality and equal opportunity created by my parents. I was the one living on an alien planet. And that's why I never had to pull back on my dreams. And that's why I felt free to follow my path. My story then, I hope, is a contribution to young girls growing up in India, around the world, and a call to parents. Let's raise our children with the freedom to dream. So that's my story. Thank you very much for coming. I'll be happy to discuss. You can just unmute yourselves and we can chat.